La 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 la.
Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Saturday night, but today is a special day as we're going to be doing an award show for all of 2024. SmackDown seems to shut it down this time of year. They do a recap show, so we figured we would do our own. My name's John Zindel. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
John, we are recapping SmackDown today. Just an entire year's worth of it with our awards. This is the second year in a row we're doing an award show, which I think is a fun wrinkle that we throw into our programming. This is interesting to have to come up with. It makes you reflect on the past year, which I like doing, going back through my old notes and through some old footage. So a lot of fun on tap. Without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. Let's get to our top awards.
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead. And we're going to start right with the MVP.
Yep.
A lot of award shows out there. You'll get Best Comedy Album that kicks
Right.
off the show. You'll get Best Independent Cartoon Short from Japan. You get
Dave
all
Meltzer
kinds of
gave it
goofy
7 stars.
awards. And Dave Meltzer gives it 7 stars. We go right to the lead. We go right to the top. We're talking about the individual MVP of the singles division for the men and the women. We'll start with the men. And from our end, it is Solo Sikoa,
Yep.
MVP of SmackDown. Dom, we both agreed on this one. We both had
Yep.
Solo Sikoa. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about why you chose Solo Sikoa.
He came into his own as a guy who could carry an angle and who could be the flashpoint. He's great on the mic. He's got a great look. We already knew he could wrestle. That was previous years. In fact, the last year's award show, I think he was our most improved wrestler because he started to do a little more on the mic, and as they showcased him more in the ring, you could see that this guy could really go. But now with his mic skills, if we were grading, he'd be an A. He's the total package, and what I think makes him the MVP is that he's a true heel. He's not a heel who's trying to be a tweener. He is a true heel, and you need that. Like the Roman Reigns babyface turn doesn't work unless Solo Sikoa is a true heel and succeeds at it. You know, he feels like a main event heel, and I think that's my MVP on a in a wrestling landscape that's full of guys who are either baby faces or tweeners. I think having a real heel at the top who can do everything that's the most valuable thing for a brand.
Yeah. And for him, for Solo's for Solo Sikoa, he's been a very good heel in that there's been no questions about whether he's a heel or a face. And to your point, Dom, it seems like in modern wrestling there is this gray area that oftentimes you can't tell if they're a heel. Are they like a cool heel? Rhea Ripley did this for a while. She was on, and they finally turned her face. But he is way on that side of the tracks where you're like, this is the guy to boo, and he's played the role well. From my perspective, specifically this year, his mic skills have improved a lot. And I should say either they were already there and they weren't being utilized, or they're just good. He doesn't seem nervous or flustered when he's up there on the mic. He doesn't ramble on too often. And there is like a serious tone to him that makes it feel realistic. The look's amazing with the bleach blonde hair and the tattoos and the Samoan look, like no questions asked. So always had a great look. and then the in-ring skills continue to be strong for him, So I think he's added that layer where he has a little bit more of a
Mhm.
character now. Before he was stiff, not really a stiff, but strong silent type, where now that they're letting him flash his characters,
And
it's
I think we're
working.
going to hear more from Solo Sikoa later on this awards program as well. It's tough to be the MVP and not be mentioned elsewhere. In addition to that,
Perfect. So there's our MVP from the men's side. But we're not going to forget about the women's side, which is debatably stronger than the men's side. I think you can go back and forth here. So let's I'll kick it to you first. Who is your MVP, Dom?
I'm going to say Nia Jax. I think the best program on the women's side has been Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. Their weird alliance. Um, it's been a lot of fun. Like you mentioned, the women's division on SmackDown has occasionally gotten main event status on the 2-hour program every Friday night. It is deserving so. The women can really wrestle. And I chose Nia as the MVP. There are other good people to choose. Tiffany Stratton, the person she's in the storyline with, and Bianca Belair. So there've been Bailey had a great run this year. There've been a lot of great people you could have chosen. I chose Nia for the same reason I chose Solo Sikoa. She improved enough on the mic, and she is a true heel. She's not doing tweener stuff. I think it's so important that there be a real heel in the top mix there at the top of the card. And of course, she has the WWE Women's Championship belt at the moment, and she's carrying it well. She's doing what you need to solidify the top of the card as a heel. Like everybody else has been able to either be babyface or tease babyface because Nia Jax is so good as a heel.
Totally. Again, similar to Solo, right? Where she's
Yeah.
she's a true heel. And
My
yeah,
MVPs are the same cookie cutter. Like it's the same problem, and these guys each solve that problem.
yeah. Naya's been a really strong character from my perspective, and I know I was watching a little bit before you were, because we started watching around the same time again, but I was like watching maybe like couple years earlier. Nia Jax had gotten critiqued ruthlessly throughout her whole career, and she's been teased ruthlessly throughout her whole career, and ultimately, um, she's really proven herself at this point, and really gotten improved a lot. So I'm excited to see that she's in that level where you can consider her an MVP, which is great to see. Like her kind of shut up the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community.
Yep.
And you know who they are. They're the guys out there that are going to be the ones that make a living trashing people. Have been all over her. And some of that stuff's funny and but at a certain point, it's good to get that she's getting her flowers here and has had a good title run. So that's your MVP. I had a different MVP, and we've both been high on her. Really surprising too, from my perspective. But Tiffany Stratton, coming from NXT up into WWE SmackDown, has really shown off her skill set and has done a great job. A lot of things for me is she's a total package. She has the look, which everyone kind of has the look when they come up from NXT, right? So everyone basically has the look. She's great in the ring. She relies on her athleticism and her like gymnastics background, but she doesn't use it as a crutch. She's not just flipping around in there. And I don't even really like flippy wrestling, but I think the way she utilizes it's great. She's got that Alabama slam that is just so stiff and so nasty. It looks great. And yeah, on top of that, her character can go either way, and either you dislike her or you like her. With her kind of bimbo, old school, goofy, blonde character. She really pulls it off, and she knows how to interact with the crowd. There's like tons of footage online of her saying something directly to the crowd that's not scripted. She's improving in there. So uh, she's a natural, and she has been a pleasure to watch this year. So she is my MVP from the women's section. So those are the two big awards. We got Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton for the women's side, and we both agree on Solo Sikoa.
We also, I think, agree on the storyline of the year since we just mentioned both of them. It's Nia and Tiffany and that dynamic in their alliance, right?
Yes.
Raw is not moving to Netflix. Was that supposed to be now instead of not?
Oh, it's now. Okay. Because I read it. If you didn't notice, I kind of paused during my
Yes.
rant, and I was like, I wasn't sure what he meant. Yeah, it's now moving to Netflix for sure. We are well aware because we watched SmackDown and have been hammered with advertisements from Raw moving to
Yep.
Netflix.
Yeah,
Which
you can't watch a SmackDown without them telling you, making sure you understand.
Right. We totally know. So moving on here, yeah, we can move on to the storyline. So we also
Storyline
have
of the year is Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton and their alliance, their friendship, their frenemy, whatever it is. So that's something we usually do. We did that last year. Storyline of the year was a lot of fun, and yeah, they're fantastic. It's this great dynamic because Nia really is kind of this just, it's not just her size, but her mannerism. She's this imposing, kind of bullying, domineering figure, and Tiffany is trying to walk that line of being in Nia's good graces, but also having her own ambitions. I think it's a great storyline, and they've managed to keep it together for several months now, and to take two stars who really had nothing to do with each other until they got thrown together in this storyline. Like for the first time, two talents work together to be this good, I think is unusual. I mean, they usually take a while to build chemistry. These two have been fantastic together since they started the pairing. It's almost like a Sami Zayn joining the Bloodline thing. Like it was instantly magic 2 years ago.
This is really what helped for both of us to kind of give them the MVPs. Is like the storyline's been so good between them. It's simple enough, but they have really good chemistry, and even like the way that the dynamic of the relationship set up, where Nia's bigger, more the veteran, the champion, and like Tiffany's the up and comer. They do have like a good big sister, little sister rivalry, or not rivalry, but dynamic.
There is a little bit of a rivalry, and that's what makes it fun. Is Tiffany going to cash in on Nia?
Whoever wrote it up,
it works.
Whoever wrote it up, it's like perfect. It's like, yeah, they can do a lot of different stuff with this. You don't really know what direction it's going to go, and you don't know when it's going to go, but you know it's going to happen. A little bit like the Bloodline stuff. So,
yep.
Kudos to WWE Creative too, because they're a group of people that have been crushed over the years that have really improved. So, kudos to them. And then my storyline of the year. Dom, when you sent me this, I could have easily made Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax the storyline of the year.
Okay.
But I said my storyline or favorite segment was Paul Heyman getting power bombed by the Bloodline.
Yeah, that was moment of the year, but storyline of the year, you also had Tiffany Nia Jax friendship.
Oh. Well, I digress. That was the story.
No, there you go. Let's do moment of the year because it leads into match of the year, at least for me. So, moment of the year for you, Paul Heyman getting put through the table by the Bloodline. Why was that the moment of the year? What did that tell you in the moment, and what did that tell you in retrospect?
I'll tell you what. As far as the moment of the year is concerned, I just loved Paul Heyman getting power bombed because he has been running his mouth for years now, and it feels like he's never takes a bump. And when he does, it's always something like a little weak bump, like he gets pushed over and he falls. But to
Yes.
take his big old ass, and he's big, he's a big guy. Like he should not be
He is.
taking this. He's not like an athletic, strong 50 mid 50, late 50, early 60 guy. It's like no, he should not be taking this bump, but he takes it, and he gets power bombed through a table by the bloodline. Just hilarious looking. And even if you look at the picture,
It was a
Nick's
thumbnail.
got a great
You
call
made
out
it a
to-
thumbnail.
Yes, and this got us a lot of clicks as a result. He looks so insane the way that he was hamming up the whole
Mhm.
character, where he was pasty and he's like disheveled, he's unshaven, and he looks horrible, and then he gets powerbombed through, which we will not show you because we will get copyright striked. And we have some comments from Nick. Thank you for joining. A wrestling channel moment of the year. Cody winning the WWE title at WrestleMania. Come on, John. This is specific to SmackDown. These are the SmackDown awards.
That was a fun
So,
moment.
While I agree that's probably moment of the year, we are sticking to SmackDown, Nick. But I agree with you there. That would probably be the actual pay-per-view wise. And then we got another one. This is the best thing going aside from the bloodline. Honestly, has carried SmackDown these 3 months. Oh, this is probably the Nia Jax.
Yep.
Tiffany Stratton. Sorry, catching up to some other chats as they were coming through here. And NCAA March Madness corrected it
Yes.
to now. Raw is
Yes,
now
there we go.
moving
We
to
got it.
Netflix. He's got
And
He's got it.
SmackDown has already made its
So-
move to USA. So SmackDown has it's hasn't been graceful getting to USA. There are rumors it may go to a 3-hour show. Tell us in the chat, tell us in the comments. If you watch SmackDown, are you looking forward to possibly a 3-hour show? Do you want it to stay as a 2-hour show? Because that's one of the big SmackDown stories of 2024 is them switching networks and possibly switching formats in the coming year. What do you think about that sort of meta story of SmackDown's business dealings?
Yeah. And then one more thing here, we'll kind of move on. So I mentioned my moment of the year. And how about you, Dom? What was your moment
My
of
moment
the
of the year leads into my SmackDown Men's Match of the Year, which is the category we're going to next. It's Ludwig Kaiser getting cheered in Berlin, Germany. It was August 30th, the night before the Bash in Berlin, or as I like to call it, the Berlin Brawl. Kaiser came out, and they were just going to give him his moment in Germany. I don't know if WWE officials understood what this crowd was going to do. There is a moment before they lock up where the crowd is just chanting Ludwig Kaiser and then doing the claps and over again. And you can even watch the video clip on WWE's YouTube channel. LA Knight looks at Kaiser across the ring after looking around at the crowd, just going nuts and chanting his name, and gives him one of those smirks. It gives him a side-eye smirk. And the camera shoots to Ludwig Kaiser, and Ludwig Kaiser gives him one of the and brushes off like the shoulder lapel there. And that moment between the two of them, when they each realized, oh, this is suddenly a much bigger match than they told us in the back. They wound up giving those guys a good 12 minutes of ring time for what would have been in any other venue a squash. And Ludwig Kaiser looked fantastic in that match. He got several near falls. The crowd was counting along 1, 2 when the ref would count for him. They would go, oh, when he missed. He would get up and play to the crowd. You you forgot that you were watching a guy who was basically a comedy jobber and Gunther's lackey. You thought for this match that you were watching two guys who were really in that main event circle. And I think it played a big role in Ludwig Kaiser getting a last third of the year push over on Raw, where he was in a title match on a pay-per-view. He then got another title match and was not squashed in it against Braun Breaker over on Raw. I think his surprise coming out on SmackDown the night before Bash in Berlin and the crowd cheering for him, turning this squirrely little heel into a hero for that one night. It was you've mentioned how much better a match is if the crowd is reacting a certain way. The crowd made this match. And it was like a bit of chaos because it wasn't like the crowd just went boo and was just lustily booing Kaiser. No, it became two baby faces.
Yeah.
Like two crazy baby faces. And the match was fantastic. Like if you can find the full match, maybe on Peacock for a while, go watch it. August 30th, SmackDown.
So Dom, that's
a
going to be
fantastic match.
2 awards for you. That's the moment
of the year, and it became the it was for the same reason. It's my SmackDown match of the year because that moment was unpredictable. It was a great moment that was unpredictable. And I think it catapulted Ludwig Kaiser for the rest of his year. And of course, LA Knight wins the match, retains the US title, winds up looking great. But moment of the year for me, in the match of the year for me. So what was your SmackDown match of the year
Dom,
for the men's side?
I'll tell you what, when we get to stuff like match of the year, my brain often goes blank because I'm like, what year is it? What happened?
Yes.
And I have to go through my old notes and figure it all out. And I said,
Yep.
oh, wait a second. Cody Rhodes in a cage match in the first USA broadcast of SmackDown because they moved from Fox to SmackDown, or moved from Fox to USA. And this was a pretty good match. And what I have for match of the year, one that really stuck out to me and stuck with me. They did a lot of things to make this a great match. They put it in a cage. That is always a lot of fun. They didn't necessarily use the cage as a crutch, but Cody knows what he's doing in a cage to make it impactful, but not too goofy. Because I think with cage matches, you get excited and you need to restrain yourself from the Mankind Undertaker tendencies that happen in cages and realize that was a once in a lifetime moment. We don't need to be throwing each other off the top of the cage every 2 minutes. So I think Cody did a great job within this match. And then they had, some matches together that weren't, I would say that were okay. There's like lots of interference. Cody typically seems to win, but this one was just a good match from Solo and Cody, and maybe their best match in their rivalry was this opener on SmackDown. So,
yes, agreed. Yeah, that was a great match, and it was a big moment too, right? The debut of SmackDown on USA. You knew there was going to be something big to it, and this match was the big thing to it, and it was a worthy main event for a bigger than normal SmackDown primetime television episode.
Yep. And then we mentioned, we mentioned match of the year. We have talked about moment of the year, but how about the most
match of the year on the women's side?
We have not talked about the match of the year on the women's side. And you know what, Tom? At the end of the day, there is a tendency here, as I've just mentioned, as you're racking your brain and thinking, what's the match of the year? What's the match of the year? It's recency bias. It's the best match I've seen in the last couple months. It's Bianca Belair and Piper Niven. independently, this match made me give this SmackDown a thumbs up. And it was really great work by Bianca Belair, who could have easily been the best overall all around worker on the roster in general, and put in a lot of great, I want to say, solid stuff throughout the course of this year. Like, Bianca Belair has been carrying Jade Cargill. She's been doing Hulu shows. She feels like she's all over the program. She doesn't take a night off. So Bianca Belair has been fantastic in her role this year. And Piper Niven has kind of rebounded her career. When she was Dewdrop under the Vince McMahon era, she was just a joke. She was dressed in all brown, called Dewdrop. Just, I don't know what was going on there. I don't want to even think about what was going on there. But it was, after all the Vince allegations, that gimmick gets weird.
Right?
But yeah, but Piper Niven has rebounded, and she had a good match here with Bianca, where they did some traditional stuff, where big man stuff, if you would call it, with Piper Niven, where Bianca can't lift her up, and you've got Bianca Belair, eventually getting her up and over and getting the W. So maybe just recency bias, absolutely recency bias, but my SmackDown match of the year.
It was a great match, and it featured Bianca Belair. I mean, you really can't take heat for saying like that's your match of the year, right?
Yeah, she's too good.
It's got an A-lister and a B-lister who stepped up, and it was a long match.
And I will admit, there's a database of star ratings that Dave Meltzer gave. And as much as we will tease Dave Meltzer, I utilized that when I was trying to find. I was like, oh, what are these matches? So I used his database to figure out who was like wrestled in SmackDown. Okay. And so shout out Dave Meltzer. I think it's called cagematch.net or something like that. But it gives the star ratings that Meltzer gave.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, so if you're ever like looking for an old match and you're wondering what someone thought of it, they have it organized in that way. So
Dave Meltzer is thorough. He's an excellent reference, and his work is an excellent reference, whether you agree or not with some of his analysis and some of his conclusions. He's definitely puts in the work.
Yes, and if you look through our archives, we have a video about Dave Meltzer that says, leave Dave Meltzer alone.
There you go, right?
He's just, leave him alone. but moving on.
My women's match of the year was from, I went way back to the first SmackDown of the year, which was January 5th. Io Sky defeating Michin. That's back when Io Sky was the WWE Women's Champion, and Michin was like, "Who? Isn't she just the weird valet in the OC?" And she got a chance to wrestle, and I was really impressed by how well Michin wrestled. This was a really good match. It was also a one-on-one match, so there was no damage control interference. They just let each of them wrestle. And for what it was, Io Sky being that fantastic acrobatic abilities, Michin being more of a maybe a traditional mid-range women's wrestler. She can do some of the acrobatic stuff, but she's also the striker. She will do some of the rope work as well. I was just impressed. This happens every now and then where we see, especially a women's wrestler who's been previously cast as just the valet, whether it was BFAB getting a chance finally at one of these triple threat matches in the U.S. Championship tournament for the women, or when Rhea Ripley finally got her chance to wrestle and not be just the woman in Judgment Day. These are fun for me. So this match just stood out for me, not only for what it was in the ring, but also what it meant. It meant that, oh my goodness, they've got yet another great women's wrestler in Michin who can who can really put on a fantastic match in the ring. And I like Io Sky. I like her moveset for a smaller wrestler who does rely on the acrobatic, flippy stuff. I think she's so good at it that I don't mind.
There we have it. I am remembering this match as well, Dom, and would agree it was very good. It was cool because Io was a pretty good champ, right? Like during her run. And this is one of the reasons that her run stuck out. I was like, oh, this match with Mishin for sure was good. And it kind of put Mishin on the mat, on the kind of put her on the map to have a good year. And we will allude to that later in some other awards.
Yes. There's a teaser for the other award. Yes, we've got a fun award that you and I basically created last year that we might get to. But before that, we'll
quite
leave
frankly,
that as a
my
tease.
favorite award.
We'll leave that as a tease. Do you want to do most improved?
Yes, let's do it. We have most improved is, from my perspective, or do you want to go first, Dom? Let me know.
Go for
what
it.
You think
You
is the
go.
most
You look like you were segueing right into it. You're on a roll. Go for it.
Yeah, I was jamming there. We've been talking about him a lot. The most improved is Solo Sikoa from the men's side.
And who's your women's side?
And then women's also going to be what I have as my MVP. So my MVP and most improved are Solo Sikoa, and then my most improved is Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah, there you go. So improved is seeing where they were like before the year started and where they are when the year ends. And I'm thinking along the same lines that you did. My most improved were exactly my MVPs as well, Solo Sikoa and Nia Jax. And for the reason being that if you had told somebody at the end of 2023 that the number one storyline and the number one wrestlers in those storylines for the entire year are going to be Solo Sikoa and either Nia Jax or Tiffany Stratton, you would have looked and said, what? No Roman Reigns, right. No Cody Rhodes, no LA Knight. You're telling me that the best long-term storylines are going to have Solo Sikoa at the top and either Nia Jax or Tiffany Stratton, kind of that combination at the top? People would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
And yet at the end of the year, and right, who would have predicted this? And yet at the end of the year, yeah, Solo Sikoa, the A-lister on the men's side. He's the best guy on TV because he's there consistently. He's a true heel. It's the storyline of the year on the men's side. And on the women's side, it's Nia and Tiffany. That's the A-list women's storyline. And they fit the part.
I'll even talk to your point about Nia Jax. Nia Jax was out of the company.
Yeah.
She was at home on the couch, got let go by the company, and has climbed back into not only the title picture, but being a champ and being a strong champion. You don't get much better than that. And then Tiffany Stratton is a lot of NXT call-ups that are just, it's not for them. They're just not ready, or they're just not ever going to be ready. One of those two. Tiffany Stratton, not the case. And then Solo Sikoa, we both agree on. Really upped his game. And going from kind of a mid-carder, what I think now is a top star. So those are our most improved, and they're kind of in line with what we've been talking about this whole time. But Tom, is it time for the Ricochet Memorial Award?
We've gone through awards that are fairly common on all sorts of award shows, MVP, match of the year, most improved. All sports have these moment of the year, storyline of the year. Let's get to a couple of awards that you and I just kind of created because of what we do here at Don't Bury the Lead, which, by the way, wherever you're watching us, if you want to get into the Don't Bury the Lead culture here, head on over to the YouTube channel. Don't Bury a Lead, a wrestling channel over at YouTube. Like, subscribe. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. There's also a premium join option if you want some extra perks. Hit that button as well. Make a contribution if you'd like. And go through our archive. Go through some of the great videos. John, you've also mentioned a few. You produce all these shorter edited clips and the hashtag shorts that are under 60 seconds. Go through some of those as we reference them on this program. You will find them all at the YouTube channel. Be one of our almost 1,000 subscribers there. So one thing that we've done in Don't Bury the Lead in this more than 2 years that we've been recapping SmackDown is we noticed some quirky things about the product. And one thing we noticed early, there's a short of me saying this back in late 2022, is about Ricochet, who's now in AEW. How Ricochet was this, he would keep getting beat and making the other guy look good, which is what you want, the enhancement talent to do. But Ricochet would also look strong doing it. So he was this really exceptional enhancement talent in the sense that he managed to make other guys look strong without making himself look weak. And John, from working indie pro wrestling, and I know from being a commentator and analyst on it as well, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Like, there's definitely a skill set there for consistently putting over other guys while still looking good yourself so that you can keep consistently putting over guys. Because if you're just a guy who gets squashed, then the other guy doesn't look strong for squashing you if you're just expected to be squashed. Mm-hmm. So we developed the Ricochet Memorial Award that we last year, I think, gave to Butch, who is now going by his NXT and UK name, Pete Dunne, and I think Shotzi at the time. This year for 2024, who's getting our Ricochet Memorial Award? Somebody who gets cast as the person who loses, but for some reason made a great impact on the rest of us and looked better than ever.
Dom, we'll start with the women's side for our Ricochet Memorial Award, which is essentially our Jobber of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go ahead. Let me pull the envelope because this is the biggest award of the show. Let's face it.
Yes, right?
So as I open the envelope, it is Mishin.
We agreed. Yep. Mishin jumped way into the women's division, which is already strong and, did not necessarily need more talent, but she's fulfilling kind of that Shotzi role, except I think she's better. I think she's a better in-ring performer than Shotzi was. And she was very important in the inaugural U.S. Women's Championship tournament because she became the person there in the finals who put over Chelsea Green. Mishin looked strong going into that tournament, had a win over Chelsea in sort of a dumpster match, which was kind of funny for what it was. But Mishin has a great quality to her where when she comes out for a match, you're like, oh, good. She's really good. This is going to be a good match. And then the other person beats her, but you don't leave that match going, oh man, they're burying Mishin. Like, she loses without you getting the feeling that she's being buried. And that's as much on creative for booking it that way, but it's also on the talent for executing it that way. What say you about Mishin? Because we agreed on this one.
Totally agreed, Tom. We were both mentioning Mishin when we set up this when we did the massive prep here at Don't Bury the Lead, not through Messenger on Facebook, but yes, we talked to all the interns and all the people that work under us, all the our butlers. Now that we're monetized, we have butlers here, but we ended up deciding on Mishin, and Mishin has been somebody that I thought was just a valet that would come out with AJ Styles. And her first match, I was like, wow, she can really go. So Mishin has been strong this whole year. She loses. Her highlight loss is to Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green was way over when she just kind of did the job, and she's been functional against everyone that she wrestles against. Yep. And I think it's got to be a certain shot to their egos, wrestlers, or I know this, if you have to go out there and you have to lose, but just put on good matches and lose, it's a very valuable thing. And hopefully it leads to greener pastures down the road. But even then, you need people that need to put other people over. So Mishin was the choice for my. How about
she had
we
the best
shift to the men?
Anybody in the OC. Like Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, they kind of disappeared. AJ Styles was around for a while, but got hurt, like legitimately hurt when he was trying to do his comeback and retirement tour. But Michin is a grinder. She was in my match of the year because she looked strong, even though she lost it. Like that was the sign of things to come. Was Michin losing in the women's championship match, the first SmackDown of the year? That became the sign of things to come for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, that's Mishin. That's our Women's Ricochet Memorial Award winner. How about our men's side? I'm going to give it to you first because I love this selection. So
I could not think of a men's wrestler who was really fulfilling the Ricochet role. I wanted to say like Grayson Waller, but they've been too much comedy. Like he's been pretty good as well, but there was just nobody. But like, when Grayson Waller comes out, it's like, oh, is this a joke match? Is there just going to be a comedy spot here? So I really couldn't give it to them because it wasn't in the mold of Ricochet. So I gave it to one of the local talents that they brought in when they were doing a SmackDown in the Northwestern area of the U.S. Ricky Gibson. We want Ricky. Has anybody who was brought in just to be a 2-minute jobber and get like stunned out of the ring by his partner, Kevin Owens, has anybody had the impact that Ricky Gibson did? He performed beautifully during that throwaway segment, so much so that there's footage backstage of Kevin Owens and Randy Orton hanging out with him afterwards and talking about what a great job he did. It gave him a boost afterwards. The internet loved him. Like, has there ever been a guy who just got announced, got stunned by his partner, and flopped out of the ring, never to be seen again, and looked stronger for it than Ricky Gibson? John, I don't know about you, but we want Ricky. We want Ricky.
No, he had one role and he was fantastic in it, to the point where I looked up the results of SmackDown because I had to watch it the next day, and I ended up looking at the results, and the top thing was Ricky premieres, and I was like, Ricky, who's Ricky? And then I watch the SmackDown, and I'm like, who the hell's Ricky? And then they bring the guy out. He's so perfect for the jobber role. Like, look at him. You're just like, wow, this looks like a video game character that got created, and it was just like default wrestler.
Yes, right. He shaved his head, but not his chest.
Yes, and he was great in the role, and Kevin Owens did an awesome job propping him up, and he was a great prop for Kevin to make the match seem a little bit more interesting because we had seen Kevin Owens and Randy Orton a million times. So shout out to Ricky Gibson. If we were to ever interview someone on this show, I would decline Roman Reigns. I would decline The Rock. No. We want to talk to Ricky Gibson. So please, if anybody out there that knows his agent, let us know.
Perfect. We want Ricky. Don't bury the lead. We want Ricky. Don't bury the Ricky. He was fantastic in his 15 minutes of fame, and I hope it carried over for him. He apparently has a wrestling school. He's in a tag team that's fairly high up there on the independent circuit. So I hope he got everything he could out of this, because he was fantastic for the little bit of time that they gave him on TV on that SmackDown. Good for you, Ricky Gibson. Fantastic.
That's awesome, Dom. And then I'm going to shift to my Jobber of the Year, which is our Ricochet Memorial Award. I'm going to go. Excuse me, just a sec. I'm going to go with Apollo Crews, who I often don't know I didn't know was in the company still. Whenever I see him on the screen, I'm like, oh, he's still there. There wasn't any clear-cut jobber that was doing too great on the men's side this year. I totally agree with you. It just felt like he's been in comedy gimmicks, and all the jobbers have been like doing kind of comedy sketches. But whenever you see Apollo Crews, you get a real match, and you know Apollo Crews is going down. He's done enough from my perspective to be like, all right, like I wouldn't mind to see him get pushed. I like him. You know, he's got a great look. He's strong enough in the ring where he's not messing things up, obviously, and he keeps it simple enough. But, you know, it's cool to see him put together decent matches with whoever his opponent is and have them be relatively entertaining. It wasn't like years past when we had Ricochet. We're like, wow, this guy's really good. Or, you know, Butch, a.k.a. Pete Dunne. Not at that level, but whenever you see Apollo Crews, you know what the outcome's going to be. So that's our gimmick award, the Ricochet Memorial Award, my favorite award of the year. I am talking about the MVPs. We're talking about storyline of the year, and I just can't wait to get to that segment.
Maybe one of the, you know, that thing maybe should be the lead sometime. It's the lead for us. It's not really the lead for viewers.
Yes, they're like, what is this inside joke about the jobber of the year?
That's
like,
the lead for us, though.
Yeah.
Is it wild card time? We each got to choose some sort of wild card award. What do you want to give that out?
Card award, where we just decide, hey, this is a random award we're going to give out, and it's to a chatter from Don't Bury the Lead, the Fixer One, who is frequently at the show. He is based in the UK, and he gives us a lot of input and insight. All his chats are great. And
is he online now? Do you see him there?
He is not.
It's a weird time over in the UK.
Yeah, he is not online, but he is our Don't Bury the Lead chatter of the year, the Fixer One. Great job, kind of giving us some additional back and forth. It's a lot more interesting when we have people kind of chatting back and forth, telling us when we're saying something stupid, telling us when they agree with what we're saying. So thank you to the Fixer. Really appreciate it. Dom, you have an interesting custom award yourself. You want to go ahead with that? I
created this award this year just because I went down my list of the standard awards here that you know you would expect to find on a pro wrestling annual recap. And I said, I don't have Bianca Belair on my ballot here, and she was so important this year. And I created what I call the luggage award. Yeah, like luggage. You're going on a trip. You got to pack for it. You need some good luggage. I gave her the luggage award because she's been carrying not only Jade Cargill, her tag team partner, but basically the entire women's tag team division. For as much mediocrity as they have been, and not always mediocrity with the wrestlers, but just mediocrity with developing storylines, giving people a consistent push. There have been some injury problems, like poor Asuka's still out from the injury she had first third of the year. But Bianca Belair basically has carried the entire women's tag team division for the entire year, and that includes carrying her tag team partner, who still is not, despite the great look, up to the level as a wrestler as the rest of the title holder and title contenders in the women's division. So Bianca Belair, she gets the luggage award. Nobody has carried more than she has this year. You had her in your match of the year, so you understand how good she is, and you've acknowledged her as well. I wanted to acknowledge how good Bianca Belair has been really the entire 12 months.
Totally. She's completely carried Jade throughout the whole process of onboarding her to the WWE. She does all the work and all the matches. Then she gives Jade the hot tag. She gets in and does her thing. Jade can sit there, do the entrance, wave, not even shoot any promos. And Bianca does all the lead stuff in the back with her, and she just kind of follows her around. Almost like a valet, but in-ring valet. Totally agree with Bianca Belair doing all kinds of stuff for the company. She has a show on Hulu with her husband or boyfriend or whoever. I don't know what their
Montez Ford, yes.
Montez Ford's what the relationship status is.
Yes.
Her SO.
Yes, husband, yes.
And who the stuff that she's done for the company, I think, is a great choice for this award, Dom.
She was one of the early people they had do the Slim Jim commercials. When they brought back Slim Jim and the old Macho Man commercial, step into a Slim Jim. It's basically LA Knight and Bianca Belair who took over the Macho Man role.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic just promoting the brand.
Dom, that's it, baby. That's the award show. Did we miss any? Did we have any hanging out there? I think we hit them all.
What funny awards, if you're watching, tell us in the comments, tell us in the chat. What extra awards do you think we should have had here that we didn't get? What award would you have created if you were giving out a special award? What awards did we give out that you agree with or disagree with from our recap of SmackDown for the entire 2024 viewing period? Tell us in the chat. Tell us in the comments, and especially if you've come up with any wild card awards yourselves. Tell us that as well. That's fun. That's when people get a little creative. So there's your chance to get a little creative along with John and I. John and me. I should know that grammar.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, let us know. So instead of the WWE SmackDown recap, we did the award show tonight. Mm-hmm. But that does not mean we're done, because guess what, Dom?
No, even though it's a special, it's still like really warm in here, and we are still extremely inexpensive, despite all our butlers and interns.
It's inexpensive. Even they're unpaid interns, so very cheap, unpaid interns.
We have butlers we stole from other people.
Yes,
they're not our butlers.
They're not ours. So, Dom, I'll tell you what. It's time for, and let me share this screen as I figure out Cheap Heat. Cheap Heat is about trending topics going on within the wrestling world. So we talk about WWE, we'll talk about AEW, other things that are happening that are trending topics. This is what we kind of built our channel on, as the algorithm really appreciates trending topics. I make smaller clips with me and Dom's commentary on these different topics. And we released the full Cheap Heat, which has done well recently, just the whole show all together. But yeah, Dom, maybe I'll kick it to you. This is Cheap Heat. And what's our first story in Cheap Heat?
Every now and then, WWE, since they're getting more comfortable with their wrestlers being sort of pop culture figures, not just pro wrestlers, they'll go out into mainstream entertainment. This is CM Punk talking football on Christmas Day and talking not so favorably about his Chicago Bears. He's, of course, known for being a Chicago guy. There he is. We're not going to play you the clip just in case we get struck for it, but you could see there's CM Punk. He's got the suit on. He's got the Netflix microphone because Netflix had the Christmas Day football games for the NFL. And of course, I don't know if you've heard this, John, but Raw is moving to Netflix. They just announced this, like just last minute. They sprung it on us, like Raw's going to Netflix. Couldn't they have told us a few months in advance, over and over again, every single show? But anyway, there's CM Punk, Netflix crossover. Good move for him there. What did you think of him being here, at CM Punk being the guy to put on the desk here, giving the WWE the rub on Netflix? And what did you think of him being so unfavorable towards his hometown Bears?
Yeah, I do have to say, anytime he has a mic in his hand, something will happen, right? He will make it a point. He's not going to go in there and just say, hey, we're going to be here Monday night, which is like what will be here Monday nights on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Come watch me. It's like, hey, I want to bury the ownership of the Chicago Bears. And what an easier target than the Chicago Bears, who lost last night 6-3 at home. They mustered up 3 points offensively, and they're a mess. And he said the owner of the team needs to sell in order for them to be good. And it's like, yeah, I wouldn't be cheerleading the Bears owner after years of, recent memory only serves me as like they made the playoffs and lost to the Eagles in the last 15 years, right? So he did bury Lovie Smith, who took them to the Super Bowl, which I was like, that's the only guy that's done anything for that organization since the 80s, right? Since Ditka. So we're talking like 30, 40 years here since they've been a relevant powerhouse. And Lovie Smith actually took him to a Super Bowl. So I don't know about burying Lovie Smith, but
yeah, he got him a pretty good playoff run there, right? Lovie Smith, the Bears were respectable.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, what is his line? Tell me when I'm telling lies. If he says, the Bears, not a lie. I mean, the ownership probably, they're not doing that great. So CM Punk, rarely, but never. Oh my God,
He took a awkward filled toolbox to the skull of the Chicago Bears ownership here.
Yeah, he buried him,
and he did not care that this was not a safe move to execute. The only thing he was missing from this pipe bomb here was some real glass.
Right.
All right. Continuing with AEW. Dustin Rhodes announced he signed a multi-year contract with AEW. I will finish my career here in AEW. His younger brother Cody, gets more of the press for being back in the WWE, finishing his story, and of course, being the current undisputed WWE Universal Champion. But Dustin Rhodes has had a long career. He apparently, of course, winding it down now in his 50s, and apparently is very comfortable winding it down in AEW. He's got a multi-year contract. John, you watch AEW more than I do. This is a SmackDown show, but Cheap Heat is all about us understanding that wrestling is bigger than the one show we watch every week. It's bigger than even the one promotion that puts on that show. Pro wrestling is very healthy right now. Tell us about AEW. Tell us about Dustin Rhodes. Tell us about this announcement that he has re-upped with AEW and Tony Khan and hopes to finish his career there.
Yeah, I think this was really cool. The entire tweet was very heartfelt. Mm-hmm. And totally supportive of Tony, of the entire brand, which is interesting because you would think when Cody left, he might be also looking to leave, but he has stayed loyal to AEW. And, he's been that back in Gorilla with Tony Khan. I've seen photos and some imagery of him back there with Tony Khan. So maybe he's gonna take the book or helping out creatively or something from that perspective long term. But very cool that he's there, and he's always been great. He made so much out of his terrible gimmick. He was given gold dust. Like that should have gone so south, and he did so great with it. He was the Intercontinental Champion. A lot of people often say he should have been a champion. He might be a little bit like Roddy Piper, where he was excellent and never needed a belt because he was just so good, but he didn't even need a belt to be that great. He's in that category. I think he's up there with Roddy Piper. Is Dustin Rhodes, aka Gold Dust?
That's a great retrospective on some of his impact there. I hadn't thought of him in that realm of guys who never won the world title, but you think maybe should have. I mean, the short list is basically Roddy Piper, Scott Hall.
Yeah,
Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, Ted DiBiase, and maybe Dustin Rhodes. Like you think he's in that conversation?
For sure. Ted DiBiase is a great example. The $1 Million Man, everyone knows who he is, and his promos are timeless, right? I know I'm going off a little bit of a tangent here, but the $1 Million Man stuff, you go back and watch a YouTube clip of him knocking the ball out of the little kid's hand as he's dribbling, and he says he's going to give him $100 if he could dribble it 10 times in a row, and he knocks it out of his hands. There was one where he bought out the pool so the kids couldn't swim in the pool, and then he's just there, and all the kids are outside of the cage, and they can't get in. Just brilliant stuff from the $1 Million Man, but he did a ton with the Gold Dust character at a time when, that was some racy stuff.
Good for
we got
Dustin
this
Rhodes.
too. 4 days left until WWE Network shutdown. Thank you, Cody Burris.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff going around on the business side that the WWE archive of shows is that either all moving to Peacock or all moving to Netflix along with this, because they're part of why these companies are paying so much money to be involved with WWE is because the archival footage is so valuable. So yeah, if you guys know more about that, I've heard about a little bit of that in passing. If you guys know more about that, let us know here. Throw it into the chat. Throw it into the comments if you're watching this recorded, the recording of this over on the YouTube channel. Don't Bury the Lead, a wrestling channel on YouTube. Subscribe while you're there. Click the join button if you want some extra, and like our videos. Leave a comment. Leave a chat. Help other people find our content. Help other pro wrestling fans do what you're doing in enjoying our product. Our Don't Bury the Lead content here. Wonderful. All right. A lot of things you were talking about, John, they're in this tweet. The thanking Tony Khan and being able to work with him, loving it here in AEW. Can't wait to see. He's optimistic about it there. So a lot of this was there. Sticking with AEW. This comes to us from WrestleZone. Chris Jericho pictured there with, I believe that's Big Bill. Chris Jericho, AEW running different middle-sized venues is a very smart move. You have been to some live AEW events here in the Philadelphia area. What do you think of them picking out venues that are more in the 4,000 to 5,000 range rather than trying to gimmick a much larger arena for that? And when you attended AEW shows here, what kind of size arena was it? What was the arena, and do you know about what the capacity is for a wrestling show there?
Boy, so they have done the Leah Core Center, which is basically Temple University's stadium. It's in Center City. It's very close to Center City, so it's like a great location, but it's probably half the size of the Wachovia Center. I want to say it's about
so they didn't put him in like the Flyers and the Sixers arena.
No, it's about 10,000.
Okay.
And when I have gone, really depends what era, but it really depends what era, but basically it's been about half full. roughly for Dynamite, which hasn't been too bad. The one that was really bad was Collision. I went to an AEW
Okay.
Collision and there was nobody there. It might have been like a 25% filled. That was actually really strange the way they set that up, but I totally agree. With Jericho here, having these smaller shows at the Hammer, they've looked so much better. The crowd has a lot more heat to it because you're not just like looking at this big empty building, and it's more appropriately sized for the live audience that they're pulling. And they've never really had these sold out big arenas unless they have pay-per-views. Now, pay-per-views are a different story. I went to Newark, and Newark Prudential Center was sold out. And it was crazy looking around. You're like, wow, there isn't an empty seat here at an AEW show. So their pay-per-views sell out, but their Dynamite's half full, and then Collision, nobody goes to Collision. The show is kind of dead. It's sort of dead.
Which is unfortunate. Jericho's comments here in line with your analysis. You want to put 10,000 people into an arena, and if you can, you do. If you're down to 5,000, meaning the demand for your show, but you go to a 4,000 seat arena, it increases demand and makes the show more exciting and translates better on TV. You've spoken about that even if you're watching on TV, the live crowd has an influence on what the TV show presents as. So, yeah, Chris Jericho is right there with you. He says it makes it more exciting and translates better on TV. It's probably easier to capture the sound of the crowd in a smaller arena than to have a much larger space where the sound is just dissipating and getting lost.
It's an eyesore if you see an empty arena on TV. It just feels like, oh man, this is very rinky. That they're like, it feels like, man, this is AEW is failing because it's like the numbers of the crowd are down. And that we have one more chat here from Cody Burris saying tonight, last 2 hours of SmackDown, meaning like the last 2 hour show. I don't know.
Yes, of the year. You got it. Yes, if you're watching SmackDown tonight, tell us tell us in the comments when you go back and find our award show. Tell us what you thought of the SmackDown show, since we won't be doing a full recap of the December 27th SmackDown show. I may tune in myself, next day, since I don't have USA. I can find it the streaming services the next day. So I think I'm going to tune in as well. I think it'll be fun. One comment from Jericho here. We have always had the cool factor in AEW, especially when we started. Did they still have the cool factor, John?
Let's see here. I feel like when they initially started, they had kind of a rebel rousing concept where they were going to try to break the mold, but now it's more established. It's been there for years, so it doesn't have that edge that Jericho references. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Would Kenny Omega bring back some of that cool factor? Sources within AEW and close to Kenny Omega have claimed that a return to AEW for Kenny has been discussed as happening by the World's End pay-per-view December 28th, which is the next day from where we are live streaming this SmackDown Award show. It doesn't say whether or not he'd be ready to wrestle or if he'd simply appear there. He is still in recovery from his operations earlier this year for diverticulitis, which is an internal organ disease and injury there. He needed some serious surgery. Kenny Omega, does Kenny Omega have some of that cool factor if he comes back?
For sure. Kenny's great. I'd say, if you're looking at a guy that can really carry the company or at least keep it pretty established, he's one of the guys that's been established there. He was a good champ. He was a champ during the pandemic era, so it's tough to tell what he would be as a champ because he did get screwed over as the empty crowds really killed it. But I've always liked Kenny Omega a lot, so I would like him. I don't know if people are sick of him or if they're all angry at him about CM Punk or don't want to drill too much into that. You can't hate everyone that CM Punk hates because at the end of the day, he hates everyone. So you would just hate everyone too. So it'd
Final
tough
boss
to-
Kenny
to live that way.
activating does he still have a role backstage there as one of the EVPs? Could he pull off something similar to what the Young Bucks are doing, the Jackson brothers, and what the Rock Dwayne Johnson is trying to do in the WWE, except he doesn't show up very often to do it?
The EVP thing that the Nick and Matt did was
Okay.
not good. So I would say it was not good, and we stay positive on this
Yes.
show, right? Like we err on the side of being
Yes.
positive. It did not work. So I hope that they would probably just start from scratch.
Start from scratch with a guy who we hope physically still has plenty left to give if he so wants to continue his in-ring career. Kenny Omega. Look for him as early as this weekend's AEW Premium Live event pay-per-view there, World's End. All right, moving on to people who may or may not have had the cool factor. This comes to us from WrestleZone. Bo Dallas says he and Bray Wyatt plan to work with Karrion Kross. Back when they were wondering what to do with Bray Wyatt, he had that one feud with LA Knight that really showcased how good and versatile LA Knight was in late 2022 into the Royal Rumble of 2023. Then Bray Wyatt was supposed to get into a program with Bray and Uncle Howdy, which was Bo Dallas under there. We're supposed to get into a program with Bobby Lashley. It did not work because Bray had some real life health issues to take care of that ultimately resulted in his passing away. But Bo Dallas here, speaking on Dead Meat Presents, talking about how some of the longer term plans were for he and Bray Wyatt to work with Karrion Kross. What do you think of Karrion Kross getting into a program with Bray and Bo? Because they've eventually made this come to fruition. It's the Wyatt Six versus the Final Testament here. So Bo Dallas eventually got his wish to work with Karrion Kross, but under very different circumstances. What do you think of these guys being high on Karrion Kross even a couple of years ago? Because Karrion Kross has been an enigma to us. Like we see something there, but they keep putting him into these programs and these gimmicks that, for lack of a better term, they're just strange.
You know, we don't watch a lot of Raw, so I don't have a huge opinion one way or the other on the Wyatt Six. I only watched one little quick video, and then that was it. I don't know if they're doing well or not. I haven't heard much about them, mostly. And I hey, if you're in the chat, let us know because I don't watch Raw. If the Wyatt Six are any good. But Karrion Kross has been an enigma for us. I think it's a great way to put it because we don't understand what the gimmick is. Sometimes he seems like a fortune teller. Sometimes he seems like a guy that would be like a dancing man. Sometimes he seems like a, I don't know, supernatural guy. Like there's all these different weird things that they incorporate. And it was our first ever short we did that did anything was about Karrion Kross. So he holds a special place in my heart because he got us over on the first YouTube short ever talking about what the hell is Karrion Kross anyway. So yeah, I would like to see him have success because he has given us many of you.
Bo Dallas speaking here with Kross. Me and Wyndham, when we first started doing this, when it was Bray and Howdy, before anything happened going to TVs, we had a lot of conversations with Kross and had plans with Kross. A lot of stuff going into the future before all that happened, Dallas said. So to get the second chance to work with him, and he has a mind a lot like ours and loves a lot of the stuff that we love, so it's awesome. Every day at work is just a great day. So maybe this is the thing that we've been waiting for Karrion Kross, a long-term program where whatever he's doing doesn't seem out of place. Maybe this is the pairing all along that he should have been in, him and doing something with the Rotundas. So good for them if it's finally working for him. What do you got there in the chat there?
Dom, we are getting
released
some
what do you got there?
chats from Twitch, which is a lot of fun because we typically get them from YouTube. Cody Burris, Netflix releases a new commercial for Raw on Netflix.
Every day it's like they got something new there. They got all the SmackDown guys doing commercials for Raw on Netflix. I wonder what's going to happen to SmackDown after tonight's episode. And then next week's will happen before the first Raw. So the January 3rd edition of SmackDown will be the last SmackDown before the premiere of Raw on Netflix. I wonder what's going to happen with the rosters and what's going to be left on SmackDown for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is aiming at Raw on Netflix right now. What about us SmackDown people?
I know.
We count too, don't we? We matter.
We are getting left in the dust as people that watch SmackDown, but maybe it'll level out once, they probably have to do the big premiere and then taper down a bit. They did the big premiere with SmackDown on USA. They had the cage match and everything, not nearly to the extent that they're pushing the Netflix on Raw, but I get why they're doing it.
I feel like Fredo, after finding out he got passed over to be godfather for his younger brother, I could do things. I'm smart.
Right.
Like we're SmackDown people.
Great
We're smart.
reference.
We can do things. We're not dumb like everybody says.
We can do things. We're smart. Don Scarcella.
Don't make us the Fredos of the WWE properties. So there we go. One more here. It's kind of on a somber note. The National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA, mourns the loss of Jack Stane. He passed away at the age of 48. He was a former NWA World's Champion from the period of the NWA after their alliance there with TNA Impact Wrestling. But before Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes had that great rivalry going. He was NWA World's Champion in 2015. Eventually, and for much of 2016, an incredible 419-day reign. Tim Storm's win there eventually led to Nick Aldis taking it from Tim Storm, and then Cody Rhodes taking it from Aldis, and then them trading the belt back and forth, leading to Nick Aldis's multi-year reign after that. So right before the NWA got really big when Billy Corgan bought it and did the 10 pounds of gold stuff, Jack Stane was one of the guys out on really the NWA had become sort of an indie circuit and was putting in the work. He passes away at the age of 48. A lot of thoughts and good memories coming from people like Billy Corgan, like Tim Storm. This comes to us directly from the National Wrestling Alliance website. So go there if you want to find out more about Jack Stane, his real name, Jeremy Lehman, and what he brought to the table here. The NWA has a special place in my heart. I watched NWA stuff as it became WCW in the late 80s and early 90s. And then when I found the NWA again, when it was TNA Impact, I was like, oh, the NWA is back. And then when I found Billy Corgan buying it and NWA Power was doing webcasted episodes weekly, I went, oh, the NWA is back. So every now and then when the NWA makes its way into the public consciousness there for the pro wrestling folks, I go, oh, yeah, the NWA. There's Jack Stane here on the left and Tim Storm here on the right. They were co-workers and kind of friends, even though they were rivals in the ring. So this is one of those things that lets you know that, oh yeah, these guys that go out there and wrestle, they're real people too, and sometimes they have real lives and real sicknesses. He died apparently of a heart condition, heart attack, complications from a heart attack suffered in late November. Passed away on Christmas Day. So all the best to him. John, do you know anything about Jack Stain or anything about that NWA period? Much about the NWA at all? I know we've discussed briefly NWA stuff here and there.
No, but that's way too young to pass.
Right?
That's a shame.
He's younger than me.
I know. I was just looking at his Wikipedia. He's only a couple years older than me, and that stinks. And yeah, R.I.P. for sure. But the NWA, to your point, I think you said it way better than I did. They do some interesting things from time to time and then flick up, and you're kind of happy to see them doing well. I think they did pretty good with, I mean, they did awesome with Power Hour. I wish that was still on. And then the other thing they did was there was a female independent wrestler that's just got signed by AEW there that did pretty well. But yeah, sorry to hear that. And on a somber note, anything else?
That's all I got for this episode of Cheap Heat. It's been a short week for us, and it's been a lot of not a lot of stuff going on week for most industries, pro wrestling included there. I mean, SmackDown last Friday was a taped canned show, so not a lot of stuff going on, but hey, there was still some stuff to talk about that we all found interesting. If you found it interesting, in the chat, in the comments, tell us what your takes are on any of the stuff we covered here. Is there anything from this short Christmas week that we missed that you wanted us to tackle? Drop that in the comments over at YouTube. Find this in our live stream archive. Don't Bury the Lead, a wrestling channel at YouTube. Like the videos. Comment if you have your thoughts to share. Subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 1,000. Hit the join button if you'd like extra perks and want to contribute to us. But for all of that being said, John, as always, it's pathologically frugal. It's unseasonably warm. What is it, John?
It's cheap heat.
And I will stop the share on that. Anything else you wanted to mention as we go to we're supposed to be kind of doing away with the show at this point and saying goodbye, but there's at least some other stuff for us to talk about, right?
Oh no, we're still going to chat. We're going to do the Italian goodbye. Dom, why don't you take the Italian goodbye over here for a second?
Sure. I was discussing this as an award for the award show, but it's not really SmackDown related. But I do want to mention this is our pro wrestling book of the year. And no, it's not about SmackDown. We were talking about some of the indie circuits there. It's about New Jersey Championship Wrestling. This is the expanded full NJCW Almanac covering 2010 to 2020, when sadly NJCW was put on hold by all the nonsense over the pandemic. This is an expanded edition covering almost 200 pages here. There's fantastic images of some of the artwork that was used for the trading cards, some of the posters, some of the YouTube thumbnails that got used, great still photography here, wonderful stuff, and of course rundowns of all of the great events that NJCW put on. Of course, the front cover is we talk about people we know in wrestling who passed away. That's Killer Ken Fulgham, who passed away sadly, much too young. He's, of course, graces the front cover there. The back cover is Nasty Nick LaCastro, so the big man of NJCW, who also was a behind-the-scenes figure as well as the championship board liaison to NJCW. So great artwork there, front and back. Wonderful content in the middle. Wrestling Book of the Year. The NJCW Almanac. covering 2010 to 2020. The full history of NJCW live wrestling events and some extra stuff in there as well, like the trading cards, like some of the event posters and images. Pick up your copy. It's available on demand publishing at Amazon.com. Search for it there. It's Candid Photos by Candid Imaging. This was put together by our buddy who was also one of the NJCW wrestlers there, Steve LaCastro, who was Steve Farley in NJCW, multi-time champion. The dedication there, of course, dedicated to the memory of Killer Ken Fulgham. Great stuff. Pick it up. Find it on Amazon. Enjoy indie pro wrestling. There's a lot of the Bonsall Street Bomber in there as well. Who? The longest running NJCW title holder. That's who. No one held the belt longer than the Bonsall Street Bomber for one continuous title reign.
Dom, I used to do a joke to people, and I said, my name's John Zindel. You may know me as the Bonsall Street Bomber. That's just a character I play on TV. So that's just a character I played in another YouTube channel. This is a different YouTube channel where I play a different character. But yes, I was the Bonsall Street Bomber for many years in the indies. And I will say the incident, or I should say, I will say a situation where it's cool to have that book. If you want to get away from the screens a little bit, you're headed into the new year, you're like, I kind of want to start reading. I don't want to read anything too deep or too intense. It's just going to give you a couple breakdowns at each of the matches. So you can, thumb through it and read it for a minute or two. If you're on the subway, if you're in a waiting room, whatever, and you just want to have something to read for a couple minutes, it's a good pickup. And we will put the link to the Amazon. You know what? I'll throw it right in the chat now.
And also in the show notes would be great on the YouTube video. But yeah, this is from the Championship Clash era, which began in 2016. And it's probably not coming through too well on the screen there, but this page here has a picture of the Bonsall Street Bomber retaining his NJCW Singles Championship there. So it's in there. We've got you there. I'm also leafing through to see if there's any oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, there is. There's Doc Lester.
Oh, look familiar?
Look from back when I parted my hair on the other side of my head. But there is the brownly dressed Doc Lester. The best $5 I ever spent was for that sport jacket there from the Glassboro Thrift Village. I remember one time Diamond Earl Scruggs insulting me for my $15 suit and me being like, $15? Oh, the audacity. I spent $5 on this. So yes, great book. Book of the year. Pro Wrestling Book of the Year. Pick it up. John, what do you got for us in the Italian Goodbye? How was your Christmas week?
Oh.
Christmas and Hanukkah week here. As we make our way into New Year's.
Wait, what was the insult from? I missed
it.
The
insult from Diamond Earl was one time he looked at me and thought he was insulting me, saying, you and your $15 suit. $15. My goodness. I was just beaming with pride. I had only spent $5 on it at the Thrift Village.
Sorry, we had a lot of people in the chat there for a minute, and I was trying to get the link over, but we will link it at the end of this. We'll link it in the comments as the top comment, or you could just go on Amazon and search NJCW Almanac. Again, pretty easy read, just to get through to you're just trying to get into reading.
If the former Steve Farley is watching this right now, and by right now I mean whenever you're catching the video, Jump on into the
Mhm.
comments with the link of your own there. Throw that in there as well, just in case people read the comments before they go through the expanded show notes there. Why not throw that in there? Steve, a good friend of each of ours. I've known him since our indie music days, and then reconnected and did more with him through indie pro wrestling as well. Good stuff all around. The NJCW Almanac expanded to cover all years 2010 to 2020.
Yeah, Christmas was good. I went to my parents. Tomorrow we are celebrating Hanukkah. My wife's Jewish. I am not. We're one of those people. We're those people. So we're doing Christmas and Hanukkah. Um, tomorrow I'll be doing Hanukkah. I am hearing the third member of our family make some noise.
Third man
But
in the
yes,
booth.
that was Christmas. He's right next door in the studio here.
He's in gorilla position right
Um,
now.
He's in gorilla and he's in my ear. So give me just a sec. You can tell us about your holiday.
Oh, sure. Let's see. Christmas Eve, I visited some friends nearby in the area, and I actually got to talk to somebody from their extended circle there who was a fellow tech worker, although for much longer than I had been in tech. He really made a full career of software development and also inventing stuff. He's also an inventor and a patent holder, and has a licensed product out there on the market that he was not only able to fabricate himself the physical prototype for it, but also was able to do the software coding. So little inside baseball, interesting stuff for me to be able to just have a bit of an inside techie conversation with someone over Christmas Eve. All the food was wonderful. I'm a very simple cooker when I cook meals myself. It's something in the crock pot that's easy to do. But so I'm always marvel at other people's culinary skills. So Christmas Eve was about that for me as well, seeing what other people put on the table there. Christmas Day, visited some other friends nearby, and really the same thing. People with wonderful homemade meals. Being able to chat with people from different backgrounds and different things that we do. So interesting for me to be able to tool around and get invited to people, as I have written on my own publishing blog site there. I'm over on Substack if you ever want to check it out, at Good Neighbor Bad Citizen on Substack. I wrote that I'm a fairly affable party guest. I play well with others. And I get to prove it sometimes during the holidays, as I get invited to different places and do enjoy the visits and the company, even if it's people I'm just meeting for the first time, or if it's people I'm reconnecting with who I met long ago and have now rekindling the association there. Lots of good friendships to rekindle this time of year. And of course, Christmas, like Hanukkah has 8 days of Hanukkah, Christmas has 12 days of Christmas. So it's just sort of the beginning half of the Christmas season. Still got plenty more to do Christmas wise. Heading all the way through the Epiphany on January 6th. So still in the Christmas spirit. But of course, enjoying this time of year.
Dom, this is the one time in the last 3 shows, so this is being our 3rd show, where I have not heard a fire truck with Santa, because that apparently is just
they're done. They're exhausted. We've exhausted Santa here. I'm in a town that the last 2 times that John and I were live streaming, once was during the Clayton Christmas parade, and I live right on the main road in town. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, it's off there on the way. I mean, it's a state highway. It's a New Jersey route. And my apartment house is 12 feet from the curb. And it's not like there's grass there. It's all sidewalk and brick. And you just hear everything coming down Delsey Drive.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, the fire trucks, late at night, they were pulling right down here. I'm catty corner to the municipal building, which is where the parade ends. So of course, I live up 2 blocks away from the firehouse in the other direction. So of course, everything ends right here outside my apartment building, and it's just fire engines blaring. And then the next week they were doing the tooling around with the fat guy in the red suit on the back of the fire engine, because we were recording on a Monday evening. So it was like, hey, everybody, you get to see Santa drive by your house. And we got that again. There we were hitting our recording there during Monday Night Raw to recap SmackDown from a few days earlier. And I'm saying to you again, John, do you hear fire engines in the background? And you're like, a little bit. It's not really coming through the mic, is it? Because it's outside. They're carrying Santa around.
You have a good mic because it didn't pick a lot of it up, and I can only imagine a fire truck is as loud as it gets to be in front of the house, right?
Yes, when you're in a house that you hear I hear traffic every hour of every day, because on the road I live on, there's truck traffic all hours of the night. There's going to be an 18-wheeler or somebody else just driving on this road. It's the only north-south road that can get you completely through Clayton.
Mm-hmm.
Every other road ends somewhere in Clayton. You got to take this road if you're passing through or if you're coming here from one of the other directions. It rumbles by. If the trucks are going fast enough, like it vibrates the building, you can feel it. So yes, when there's commotion outside, I'm always a little nervous that stuff is bleeding through the mic. But like you said, this is a pretty good unidirectional mic from my indie music days. And I just have to eat the mic, as they say, like stay in front of the mic the whole time, eat the mic, and it does a good job of picking up me and not any auxiliary noise from the ambiance here.
Yeah, eat the mic is definitely something. I didn't know what that expression meant until pro wrestling, because they would be like, "Oh, you're eating the mic." I'm like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Oh, you're like talking too much like this." Like you got to have that right amount of distance from it in the live crowd. The biggest thing I think too with the mic is the live crowd is if you're back here and you're talking like this and you're shooting a promo. Nobody can hear you. If you're back there, nobody can hear.
Yeah, and nobody can hear you.
You got to get up on it.
And also the guys in the truck, for them to hear you at that distance, they would have to turn up the sensitivity of the mic enough that it would pick up the crowd. They want a clean signal on what you're saying. And so, like, if I get too close to this mic, sometimes it gets muffled, it gets overloaded. But the main idea is to stay directionally with the microphone. So, like the Delsey Drive, the main road in town, is on the other side of this mic. That sound isn't going to be picked up because it's not in front of the microphone. So I can hear it because my ears pick up, the sound outside, but the mic won't do it. So yeah, we stumbled into some fairly decent equipment that we use here for this program. We joke about being pathologically frugal there in Cheap Heat, and I joke about being a cheap person just generally. But the times in my life when I've been blessed to have decent equipment for things, I've tried to take care of it and still use it. I mean, this is a fairly good mic I have here. It's not the best. It's not brand new, but it does the job.
We are an aggressively frugal YouTube channel.
Frugal.
We have not paid for subscribers. We have not paid for views. We have not. The only thing we pay for is Restream and this mic. This laptop is a hand-me-down. It's like 15 years old, and
we get the most out of the equipment here, and our anything we've earned there, we have actually earned. There's no fake stuff there. Like you said, we didn't buy clicks. We don't buy subscribers. We don't buy views. We do what we do, and you, the Don't Bury the Lead viewers, make all the other stuff happen. If there's 900 and something subscribers, it's because 900 and something real YouTube accounts liked what we do enough to click that button, and we thank each and every one of you.
Dom, as we mosey on to the Italian goodbye, we have a few people on still. So,
yes.
Hey, if you've been watching, I know this is kind of like the lame YouTube commentary, but go ahead and subscribe. It's very helpful. It helps the channel out a lot. It's free. You can turn off the notifications, but we're trying to get to 1,000. We're at 947, so we're 53 short. 3 more, and we'll be at 950, which is a every 50 for us is always a big deal. So if you could just hit the like or hit the subscribe button, if you want to like too, that's helpful. I think and that doesn't cost you anything. There's some other options where you can join Don't Bury Me account. Some of them kind of boil down to we will make videos that you want us to make. You just need to tell us what we need to make. So that's a big advantages and perks. And if you are a frequent chatter, you get like highlighted chats. So anything like that's helpful. And if you're just cool, just watching, that's cool too. Anything that you feel comfortable with. We are not trying to Mr. Beast you to death with subscribe. We'll pay you $1 million. Subscribe. The last thing I want to be is Mr. Beast. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
But anything else, Dom? Wes, we're kind of moseying on through the Italian goodbye here.
Not much. Were there any wrestlers that we left off of our award show that you were thinking about for any of the awards? I mentioned that I was thinking about, how the great women's division, Bayley had a great year. Tiffany Stratton also had a great year, as did Bianca Belair. But in the end, I pulled for Nia Jax there. Were there any people you were thinking about for one of these awards, or any matches you were thinking about for one of these awards, storylines that did not make your cut, and why?
You know what, Dom? It's because I put it through ChatGPT. So I realized something. I just put it through ChatGPT to organize my thoughts, and it told me that I picked most improved. But actually, who I meant to pick was Logan Paul as most improved.
Logan Paul. Okay. What stood out to you about Logan Paul, who was on TV more than he was wrestling in the ring, much more than he was wrestling in the ring? What made you say that Logan Paul had improved in 2024?
In 2023, Logan Paul for me was go away heat. I thought he was terrible for the product. I didn't like them bringing in outsiders. I didn't like them bringing in a YouTuber. Specifically, like just seeing little bits and pieces of what he's done in his career. He's a terrible person. I'm like, why are they? They have such good guys on their roster. Just put somebody else up. But the promos that he was doing were so lame. When he got the title, the U.S. title, I was invested in the U.S. title. He was doing lots of things that weren't promo related, but more in his wheelhouse, which are produced sketches outside of when he's showering with the belt, he's in bed with the belt, he's he's shooting a promo and he's doing just like these type of promos, talking to the camera and not showing up. It made the belt seem impactful, and it was so great when he was in his hometown of Cleveland expecting the hero's welcome, and he wore the Browns gear and he still gets the boos. It was like, yes, he's still that heel, even though you could see he's trying to get all the attention and then trying to turn face in real life too, and it's just completely flopping. There is you're a man that reads the Bible. There's some story out there that is similar to what Logan Paul is doing now. I'm sure you can reference one where he's doing evil things to get some sort of level of respect, but it's backfiring. And
it's backfire. Yes, that's the common story of the human condition. Trying to get a reaction out of people and getting a different reaction than you thought.
Yes. It's something about you could even do like rabbit in the hair, or it should be tortoise in the hair, where he's trying to cheat and shortcut everything in life with views, or you have to be like hysterical to get views on YouTube, and it gets views, but then it's like, well, now you have the views, but they're so empty, right? And then there's like aspects of his moral compass that are messed up. Having said this rant about Logan Paul, he is a good U.S. champ, and I did care about it. So I think he's the most improved.
Logan Paul brought a gravitas to the U.S. Championship that made LA Knight's win over him feel big.
Mm-hmm.
Like LA Knight didn't beat Austin Theory.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't beat Austin Theory. He beat a guy you wanted to beat. They had the best match on the SummerSlam card, no questions asked. And he helped a really good hot face and a really good hot heel had a good program.
Yeah, I like it as well. Logan Paul, yeah, so improved from going from just a guy who's a new media superstar to a guy who seemed to understand more of pro wrestling. That is an improvement.
And I like the Italian goodbye as much as anybody, but at some point when you're sitting at the foyer and you've got the leftovers and you're talking on the fourth or fifth conversation, the third man in the booth, the kid starts tugging at your leg. And that's what's happened to me now as the baby is up.
Gorilla
so
position is cueing you to get through that curtain, John.
We had a great turnout today. Bigger, which is awesome to end the year strong. We had like up to 10 people on
a
chat.
Friday afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
What a contribution. What an unusual time slot that I thought we'd get nobody. We got a bunch of people. So this was a really fun one, Dom. Really unique. Appreciate you kind of jumping in and improvising with me here during the award show. This has been a great year, man. We are very, very close to monetization, but the channel keeps growing and we keep rolling here. So thanks so much, Dom. Really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone that tuned in today, and have a great rest of